Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another video. It is the game preview, Sheffield United versus Everton tomorrow afternoon, 12:30 p.m. kickoff, the early kickoff on a Saturday afternoon. Everton are back in Premier League action after, of course, our first win of the season in the Carabao Cup second round against Doncaster Rovers on Wednesday. It is deadline day at the time of recording this video, so there is about 450,000 different things going on at the moment surrounding Everton Football Club. But there's a game of football to be played tomorrow, and it's important that we sit down, it's important that we talk about it, and it's important that Everton attack this one with the aim of coming out with the 3 points. Obviously, our last Premier League game was a massively disappointing defeat to Wolves at Goodison Park, a game in which we all felt was a massively important fixture and was labelled by many, myself included, as a must-win this early on in the season. Obviously, losing the opening 2 games of the season, Fulham being a very bitter pill to swallow, given that we were much the better team on the day and obviously ended up losing that game, probably unfairly, given the goal that we had disallowed. We were then, dismantled by Aston Villa. Again, absolutely no problems with that result. Aston Villa were much the better team. Well, I have got a problem with that result, but I mean, it's not like we were the better team on the day and we lost. Aston Villa were much the better team, and Everton didn't deserve anything. And then, the Wolves game was very much an opportunity for us to, again, face a side at Goodison Park that we should be beating, and, kickstart our season, and we failed to do so. We lost the game. Again, another example of a game where Everton were the better team. Everton had opportunities, but we just couldn't score because ultimately we don't have enough going forward. We lost that game, and then of course, the game against Doncaster for 45 minutes was an absolute disaster. We did bring on Beto, the new striker, and he obviously made the difference on Wednesday night, and we got the win. And I spoke on Wednesday about how important that win could be for the next few weeks of obviously Everton's season. Obviously, there's an international break after this game, so this is the final game before the international break. But, regardless of whether it was against the League 2 opposition, regardless of whether it was in the Cup and not the Premier League, we just needed to win a game of football. That's something that we've struggled to do massively in recent years, but certainly in recent weeks. But we've also struggled massively to score goals, and I always felt like the longer it went without a goal and the longer it went without a win, the less confident this team become, the more pressure was piled on them, and it just was a recipe for disaster. And even though you could say, well, we only beat a League 2 side, that's expected, Cam. It was expected, but the fact that we won that game and we were able to come back from being 1-0 down, scored a couple of goals, win the game, hopefully will give the players a confidence boost going into this one tomorrow afternoon. And this will be another difficult game. Sheffield United, much like ourselves, haven't picked up a single point so far in the Premier League season. One of 4 teams, Everton of course being another of those 4 teams who are yet to pick up a single point. 3 games, 3 defeats. They have had narrow defeats. Their last one coming against Manchester City. They did lose in the Carabao Cup to Lincoln on penalties in midweek, but their last Premier League defeat coming against Manchester City in what some may see as an unfortunate result for Sheffield United. Obviously, they got back into the game and, Manchester City ended up scoring a late winner, but their performance was by no means embarrassing or by no means a disgraceful performance coming up against the treble-winning, side and probably the best side in the world. They done well to stay in that game. They done well to equalise, and they very nearly got a point out of that. They lost 2-1 narrowly to Nottingham Forest the week before, and then the week before that, they lost 1-0 to Crystal Palace on the opening day. So, whilst this Sheffield United side have obviously lost all of their games in a similar vein to Everton, it hasn't necessarily been a case of they've been absolutely dreadful and they've been beaten heavily in those games. They haven't. They've come close to picking up points. As I said, they were close last week against the best team in the world, and they'll probably see themselves as a little bit unlucky to have come away from those 3 games with absolutely nothing. And I think Sheffield United will see this one tomorrow as an opportunity for them to kickstart their season. They obviously lost in the Cup midweek as well, so they'll be looking at this as an opportunity against a team that firstly are dreadful away from home, or certainly have been dreadful away from home for the majority of the last few seasons. And secondly, a team that are struggling at the bottom end of the table as well. You know, Everton have lost our first 3 games of the season, and there's an argument to be had that Sheffield United have performed better in their games than Everton have in ours. Obviously, the 2 home games, you could say Everton were maybe unlucky, but the away game against Aston Villa, we were absolutely atrocious. Whereas, obviously, Sheffield United managed to very nearly get a point against Manchester City. So I think Sheffield United will be looking at this one as an opportunity to get their first win of the season, and that's what makes this game really, really interesting. Is similarly to the Wolves game last week, it's 2 sides that are absolutely desperate for our first win of the season. Everton are desperate for our first Premier League goal of the season, and like I said, hopefully those goals that we scored on Wednesday night can give this team and this squad a little bit of a confidence boost going into this one to, at least be able to, get an opportunity in front of goal and put it away. But it will be a difficult game of football, of course it will be. Obviously, Everton have brought in Beto since the last Premier League game, so I'm sure he will start. The manager had his press conference yesterday. He spoke about Dwight McNeil being back on the grass and a decision needing to be made about Dwight McNeil. He spoke about Dominic Calvert-Lewin not needing surgery and therefore a decision needing to be made on his availability for this game. So Everton could be coming into this game with a much stronger squad than what they had in that, in that Premier League game against Wolves last week, and we ultimately will be coming in stronger anyway because we know we've got Beto there, who is, a much, much better option up front than anything that we had last weekend. So this will be difficult. We know, Sheffield United have got a number of players that have been in and around their team for a long time, have played in the Premier League with them before, players like Ollie McBurney, Daniel Jefferson, obviously they've got Ryan Brewster there, I believe, signed Tom Davis in the summer as well, so, we all know how that story goes, don't we? But, as I said, this is a side that will be desperate for their first win of the season and will be desperate to get that first win of the season in front of their home crowd, and it's up to Everton and it's up to Sean Dyche to not only avoid that happening and stop that from happening, but to also go out there with the aim of us getting our first win of the season as well. I don't like talking about away games in a vein of them being must win or this one's one that we absolutely have to win, because I have no expectation when it comes to this football club and games away from home. I just don't expect us to win any of them because we are truly, truly dreadful away from home. We won 2 games away from home last season, and one of them was obviously a massive shock in that Brighton win. We lost 2 games away from... we won 2 games away from home the season before. We haven't actually been good away from home since that Carlo Ancelotti season, during COVID, where there was no fans in stadiums, and before that you'd have to go back to the David Moyes seasons where we were, pretty competent away from home. Ever since then, we've been absolutely atrocious. So I don't have any expectation when it comes to away games, but this is an opportunity for Everton. And whilst it's an opportunity for Sheffield United themselves, it's a massive opportunity for Everton to come up against a side that are struggling at the moment. Everton lost 3 games and have won 1. I know people will say, oh, the cup doesn't count, but Sheffield United lost their cup fixture as well. So, it's an opportunity for Everton to come up against a team that, will be under pressure. I understand Everton are under a massive amount of pressure ourselves, but this Sheffield United side will be under pressure. They were a team that a lot of people had going down at the start of the season before the ball had even been kicked without any real hope. Again, they are a relegation rival, and I know we're only, 4 games into the season. I know it's only relatively early on, but the reality is whether or not we're in August, we're in September, or whether or not we're in April and May, when you come up against sides that you either know or have a feeling will be in and around you come the end of the season, you cannot be losing those games. And Everton, for me, have already lost 2 games against 2 teams that will be struggling this season. I think Fulham will struggle this season, and I think Wolves will struggle this season, and Everton have already lost both of those games at Goodison Park. So we can't really afford to lose another game against another team that will be struggling this season alongside ourselves, on the assumption that Everton will struggle this season, because we have done the last 2. So, again, do I expect Everton to go out and win this game? No. but I expect Everton to get something out of this game because it would be absolutely disastrous if we were to lose. And if we were to lose tomorrow, I think that win against Doncaster becomes pretty much irrelevant. And I think, like I said on Wednesday, if we would have lost that game, there would have been an immense amount of pressure on the manager. I think if we lose tomorrow, there will be an immense amount of pressure on the manager, and probably rightly so, because you can't lose 4 Premier League games on the bounce and expect there to not be questions asked and expect there to not be pressure. So this will be a tough one. As I said, hopefully we get to see a couple of faces back in the squad at the very least. Dwight McNeil maybe in and around the squad, maybe Dominic Calvert-Lewin in and around the squad, but it's ultimately up to Sean Dyche to once again pick the right starting 11. We saw a couple of players playing on Wednesday night that the manager has preferred beforehand, but simply just aren't good enough. The likes of Michael Keane, who for me shouldn't be anywhere near an Everton starting 11. And okay, I understand he played, against Doncaster because it was a cup game and the manager wanted to give rests to certain other players, but he absolutely can't play tomorrow. He simply can't start. He's just not good enough. Maybe we'll see Beto for 90 minutes and that could change the entire way in which we played. When we saw Beto on Wednesday, he was big, he was physical, he put his weight about, he put himself about, he was dominant in the air, he was dominant on the floor, and that could make a whole heap of difference in terms of what the result will be tomorrow afternoon. So yeah, a really, really important game. One that for me, if Everton can go out and win, it would be excellent. It would make it 2 wins in a week. It would make it a first win of the season. I don't expect us to win because I just don't expect Everton to win away from home, regardless of the situation that we're in. But that doesn't mean that we can't win. And that doesn't mean that the aim and the goal shouldn't be to win. Like I said, we're not facing, with all due respect to Sheffield United, and they will be fancying this one themselves because they'll be looking at this thinking, well, we're at home and Everton are really poor away, so they'll be fancying themselves to win this game. But with all due respect to them, we're not facing Manchester City, we're not facing Arsenal, we're not facing Chelsea away. We're facing a team that have lost their first 4 games of the season and a team with already quite a significant amount of pressure on them because a lot of people had them to be in a relegation battle come the end of the season. So in terms of team news, for me, I would go with Jordan Pickford in goal. I would go with Ashley Young at left back. I don't think Vitaly Mykolenko done anywhere near enough to give himself any form of argument to be in this starting 11 tomorrow. I would go with James Tarkowski and Jared Branthwaite at centre-back. Similarly to Vitaly Mykolenko, I thought both Ben Godfrey and Michael Keane were absolutely horrendous on Wednesday night, and neither of them had done anything to deserve an opportunity in this team. I would actually go with James Garner at right back. We saw James Garner move over to that right back position on Wednesday night when Nathan Patterson come off at half time, and I think ultimately James Garner is comfortable there. And I know people will say, well, Patterson should start there because he's a right back and he's fit, but I just don't think Patterson has had a particularly good start to the season. I don't, and I think the manager is, quite blatantly confident in James Garner playing there, and I just expect, if there is to be a change there, I expect it to be Garner there. Don't get me wrong, I wouldn't be massively surprised if Patterson played there, but I expect Garner to be out there. Midfield, I'm going to go with Garner Guy, who was phenomenal against Doncaster, come on and completely changed the game and was a massive reason as to why we won that game. I'll go with Onana next to him, and I will go with Takore as well there. And then up front, I will go with Danjuma on one side. I'm going to go with Dobbin on the other. Don't get me wrong, I would love Dwight McNeil to be available and fit and ready to go. But again, I think the best we can hope for is maybe to see him on the bench and maybe to see him get a little 20, 30-minute cameo at the end of the game. And then I'm going to go with Beto up front. So Danjuma, Beto and Dobbin as the front three. Like I said, McNeil could be back. And again, the manager might have to make a decision there. Calvert-Lewin could be back. If Calvert-Lewin is back, I think having him on the bench and not needing to rely on him and giving Beto that first start after what was a fantastic debut on Wednesday would be the right decision to make. Obviously, we don't know who Everton are going to bring in today, but given that it's past 12 o'clock now, whoever we do bring in on deadline day won't be eligible to play tomorrow, so that won't make any difference either. So yeah, big game tomorrow. Again, Everton need to win a game of football. You've got to win at some point, and why not be tomorrow? It will be tough because, as I said, Sheffield United they've lost every game so far this season, but they've not necessarily performed badly. They've been okay in those games, and they like I said, will be fancying themselves as well. But for me, Everton have just got to go out. The manager's got to set the team up properly in terms of his team selection, and he's got to set the team up tactically properly as well, because I think tactically there is a lot of questions that Sean Dyche should be being asked at the moment, because we just haven't been good enough. We haven't been good enough whatsoever. So if Everton can set the team up tactically right tomorrow, and the manager can set the team up tactically right, get the right team selection, hopefully we can see Beto, putting himself about again, and dominating and controlling the ball. And who knows, maybe they'll surprise us, and maybe we'll get our first win of the season. Let's hope so. Big thanks for watching. If you have enjoyed this one, please leave a like. Obviously, we'll be back with the instant match reaction and the player ratings tomorrow, so don't forget to look out for those, and we'll have all of the transfer deadline day content later today as well. So big thank you all for watching. Leave a like if you've enjoyed it, subscribe if you're new, and we'll see you later.